Welcome back to the realm of Final Fantasy XIV! Today we're tackling the new extreme fight introduced, Ruby Weapon. Ruby Weapon, I enjoyed this fight to no end, and I enjoyed it even more when it was the normal mode was first released, because boy did it catch me off guard. This fight is notably easier than Hades, and I don't have a problem with that. Generally, it's a pretty good fight. So you can find it there in the Raid Finder. However, just like before, I'm going to be using the Party Finder in order to actually find a group for this. Though I'll be joining a pre-existing group this time instead of making my own. Alrighty, checking a queue later, and we're ready to take on Ruby Weapon. Just like against Hades, we assign everyone a cardinal and intercardinal direction. The standard, easiest way to do this is to put down a one marker and have everyone stand on either a corner or a side of the square. It's kind of amazing how many people can't wrap their head around this one. So you'll get most people moving to the square and standing in their appropriate position, and then one person just kind of standing off on his own, not entirely sure what's going on. So here I'm grabbing the southwest corner, and then we also have to choose either 1 or 2. This is left or right. The healers are also going to be marked with a 1 or 2, so this is going to be pairing up with our appropriate healer. Since I'm on the left side of the arena, I kind of prefer staying with number 1 on the left side of the arena. There's a new feature with the markers that lets you put them in the exact place you want them to be without having to go through and place each one individually, which makes the setup for this fight much easier. So I will be at number 3 then, in the southwest corner. Now though this fight is much simpler than Hades, that doesn't mean it's equally easy to heck up. And sometimes one misstep can cost you the entire fight. Before mechanics start, you do have a brief moment at the start of the fight to get some good opening damage in. It's always nice they let you get your opener out. Optimized Ultima is simply raid damage. Magitek Bit is going to summon 8 or so Magitek Bits around the edge of the arena, who will be attacking us with directional AoEs aimed at each one of us. These are very simple to step out of the way of, and we'll be seeing 4 of these lasers go out. However, it's complicated just a little bit with Helico-Claw. Nobody knows how to dodge Helico-Claw. You can see the AoEs there at the center of the arena and the lines going out in an arc away from them. These circles are going to explode out following that line going out. It makes it kind of tricky to tell exactly where the explosions are going to be, but I have found right at the corner, between where 2 of these circles intersect, just to the left of that, a hair is a good safe spot. However, the Magitek Bits are going to be shooting a laser right before these explosions start going off. So if you stand in the safe spot, you're going to get hit by a laser. So you have to move somewhere you don't want to be in order to bait the laser and then move to the safe spot. Easiest I've found is simply to move into the AoE in the center, and then as soon as I see the markers for the Magitek Bits coming out, I move out to the safe spot. It helps when everyone else doesn't put a Magitek laser across my safe spot. You'll only have to dodge the Helico-Claw and Magitek Bit combination twice, but don't forget that a final Magitek Bit laser will come across just to keep you on your toes. Stamp is a tank buster. As far as I can tell, it is not an AoE around the tank, though it still makes me uncomfortable standing near the tank when it goes off. This Flexi-claw cast will get us ready for our next mechanic dance. Everyone should move to their locations at this point. His Flexi-claw is going to send out 8 cracks moving across the arena. 4 of them will be very long, straight cracks, and 4 of them will be very short, windy cracks. These will always be separated, so the long ones will form an X, and the short ones will similarly form an X. Once the cracks are done growing, you'll see the Raven's Claw cast go off, which causes a large explosion at the tip of each one of these cracks. In order to dodge this, for the shorter cracks, simply move as far to the edge of the arena as you can, and for the longer cracks, move right up next to the boss's hitbox, but stand directly on the crack. You may have noticed that there is an AoE on the boss too, so the boss is not a safe spot. You also follow this up with either Undermine or Liquefaction. I'll cover Undermine now, but don't worry, we'll see Liquefaction shortly. Undermine is going to cause all of the cracks to explode into stationary AoEs, so for the moment, stay away from the cracks. The standard is to rotate ever so slightly clockwise for this, so you can get 2 people between each one of the long cracks. Of course, some people can get confused by this, and sad to say, I'm glad that you died because cramming 3 people into one of these areas can complicate matters. Though it looks like my friend on the other side is squeezed onto the wrong side. So after Undermine creates those large AoEs, another AoE is going to drop down on top of the player, dropping a mine down 3 times in a row. As soon as you set down a mine, be sure to get out of it as quickly as possible. You just have a second or so. You can place these mines very near each other as long as you're not standing within someone else's mine. 3 of these down, and you can continue DPSing the boss. After a brief moment, the mines will start fading away, and the boss will use Ruby Ray. This is going to be a large directional AoE in whichever direction the boss is facing, so simply move behind the boss. If you get crowded by bombs, don't worry, they should disappear, giving you plenty of time to get behind the boss. Optimized Ultima is just more raid damage. Another Flexi-claw cast, though this one is going to be different from the previous one. This one is instead going to turn the entire outside of the arena into quicksand. As long as everyone stays in the center of the arena, you should be fine for the moment, but prepare for some new mechanics. Ruby Weapon will shoot off to one side of the arena. The range DPS can actually continue attacking him for quite some time, though watch for the large arrow that will appear in the middle of the arena. Ruby Weapon is going to be dashing around the arena quite a bit, and this very first dash is going to be into the center of the arena, and then out again in the direction of the arrow. Typically, when Ruby Weapon dashes across the arena, he leaves a small slit on either side that you can stand in order to avoid the AoE. However, this very first dash is different for some absurd reason, and it will actually cover the entire width of this small circle, which means the first dash will cover half of this arena, and his dash out will cover another half. So you actively have to stand in the corner in order to not be hit by it. You may notice numerous other arrows across the arena. These are going to detail Ruby Weapon's path around the arena, and you'll even see some markers, such as that claw, that dictate something Ruby Weapon is going to be doing. For the claw, look directly at Ruby Weapon and see which side it grows very large claws on. It's going to dash directly across the center of the arena, leaving a small slit on either side that's safe. However, that claw is going to hit that entire side of the arena, leaving it unsafe. So you have to move to the small available window on the other side. So Ruby Weapon is going to be dashing across the arena, and then moving over, and then dashing across the arena again. And that claw is going to stay active this entire time. It's a bit much for me to brain out exactly what that's going to cover and how, but keep in mind that after this dash, there's only going to be one more dash across the arena. You can see both arrows right there. Imagine the second arrow bisecting the entire arena. Whichever side you're on, get on the other side, and you're safe. It's as simple as that. Another chance for a little bit of DPS with another optimized Ultima, followed by Stamp. That's just raid damage and a tank buster. Though shortly off after, Ruby Weapon will shoot to one side of the arena and ready Ruby Dynamics. Remember which healer you paired up with. I paired up with number 1 on the left side of the arena, so me, that healer, and our 2 friends are going to gather on the left side for a gather AoE, and the rest on the right. You have to be inside Ruby Weapon's hitbox, or you will be hit by a large claw AoE. And while in there, just make sure you're not standing in your friend's gather's AoE, or you will probably die. Once the gather AoE goes off, I try to hang close for a moment for a heal, because if we don't get healed up, we will very quickly die. Ruby Weapon will ready Cut and Run, and put an AoE on each one of the party members. Cut and Run just means Ruby Weapon is going to be moving across the center of the arena with several conal AoEs. And you have to make sure that you crowd in as tight as you can on either side, so all of the targeted AoEs don't overlap and kill you. Be very careful in this situation, and assert dominance if need be to claim your spot. You can't be hecking around too much, or you will overlap and die. I frequently get hit here twice, and I'm not entirely sure why, but if you do, it will kill you. You'll see right after those targeted AoEs go off, a proximity AoE will appear on either side of the arena, so quickly run to where Ruby Weapon is to minimize damage on this. Once again, you're going to have to be healed up before those go off. Once you've piled in, another Ruby Ray will go off. This is a directional AoE in front of Ruby Weapon, so just be sure to stand off to one side. You have plenty of time. Another optimized Ultima for more raid damage. Ruby Weapon will teleport to the center of the arena for another Flexi-claw. This is going to be a repeat of our crack mechanics from earlier, only with the opposite effect. If you had Undermine before, you'll get Liquefaction this time. If you had Liquefaction first, you'll have Undermine. So this time, since we've each moved to our assigned location, I have a long crack this time, so I'm going to be moving close up next to the boss's hitbox, so I can avoid the 8 surrounding AoEs. Now for Liquefaction, instead of standing off to one side of the cracks, you actually want to stand exactly on the crack. The entire rest of the arena is going to be turned into quicksand. You're still going to be targeted by the mines and have to drop 3. You're just going to have to dance very slowly and very tightly across these mines in order to make your way towards the center. Especially for the lengthier ones, do be careful near the end on your way in so that you don't step on a mine and kill yourself and everyone else. This will once again be followed by Ruby Ray. You have plenty of time after the mines disappear to get behind Ruby Weapon. Optimize Ultima for more raid damage. Flexi-claw, which is going to be functioning much like before, only this time it's going to turn the center of the arena into quicksand. You'll want to move near the north side of the arena, not the very north, but near it, because Ruby Weapon will always zip to the north of the arena for this Raven flight. It's going to be the same deal as before, with all of the arrows across the arena, and it dashing about randomly. This one is notably easier than the last one, though. As soon as Ruby Weapon moves from that first position, run right over to where Ruby Weapon used to be. This will ensure that you don't get hit by any of its other dashes, because some of them may end up being fairly close to you. After its second dash across the arena, it will stop, and you can see a little whirlpool. This means it's going to be changing the entire arena, so that the center is solid and the outside is quicksand. As soon as it stops moving, you're more than free to stand in the center. It'll dash immediately over to another claw mark, so watch for the claw, move to the opposite side of the arena, and after this final dash, you're done. Once again, another optimized Ultima for some more raid damage, followed by another Stamp, Tank Buster. And it's near this time that Ruby Weapon will zip to the center of the arena and start casting optimized Ultima, but a very long cast optimized Ultima. This is a hard enrage. If you don't kill it before that timer goes up, you will die. And we did it! We won! We beat Ruby Weapon! Oh, you thought that was the whole fight? It's pretty standard practice at the start of Phase 2 for everybody to run into the death plane on the outside of the arena. That way you can clear the fight and restart on your terms instead of getting tossed in with whatever recast timers and HP you had at the end of the previous phase. Though sometimes this isn't communicated as well as it needs to be. So a quick wipe later, and we're ready to start Phase 2. Phase 2 is actually notably easier than Phase 1. If you can make it to Phase 2, you've pretty much got this in the bag. Phase 2 is also a save point, so if you wipe at this point, you start again on Phase 2. You have a brief time at the start of the fight where you can get into some damage. Ruby Weapon will cast Meteor Project, which will start a very slow descent of Dalamud in the background. Don't worry about it too much. Instead, worry about Negative Persona, which will put a barrier up around Ruby Weapon that we cannot hurt, and will summon 2 adds on either side of the arena. It will also put a colored debuff on you that means you can only attack the add of the opposite color. I have the blue debuff, which means I can only attack the red add. Shortly after this happens, Meteor Stream will go off, which puts a targeted AoE on 4 members of the party. Just make sure they don't overlap or kill people that don't need to be killed by it. Try to stand near the healers, so it's easier for them to bring you back up. Greater Memory is actually a damage up buff that will stack on these adds. This isn't really a soft enrage, it just means you're going to have a harder and harder time as this fight goes on. The adds will each then cast either Iron Chariot or Lunar Dynamo. Iron Chariot is a circular AoE around the add, which means you want to get away from them, while Lunar Dynamo is a very large donut AoE, which means you want to get next to them. Reminder that these adds do need to be pulled to the opposite side of the arena, or they will tether together and become undamageable. As long as they're pulled to the opposite sides of the arena, you should be safe from the opponent's AoE. Just make sure to dodge Iron Chariot to the north or south, because if you dodge towards the middle, you may hit the opponent's Lunar Dynamo. After this, 2 people will be tethered to a floating head. One of the floating heads will be red, one of the floating heads will be blue. I do believe this is based on which debuff you have, so if you're fighting the red add, you will always get a blue head. These need to be drug into the add of the opposite color in order to get rid of them, or they will explode, killing you. They move very slowly, though, so you have plenty of time to do this, and another Meteor Stream is going to go off before that. I typically try to stand just off to one side so I don't hit anybody with the Meteor Stream, and then as soon as it goes off, I move over where the tank is, so the tether is intersecting the add, and the head will hit the add, neutralizing it. Around this time, the adds will each do a Tank Buster, so be prepared for that one, followed by Ruby Weapon itself casting Change of Heart, which changes your debuff, meaning you have to run over to the opposite add, and the tanks will have to tank swap them. This is going to be very quickly followed by all the mechanics we've just seen, the adds casting Greater Memory, giving them each a damage up buff, followed by Meteor Stream, so you have to stand away to not overlap adds, and then the adds will do their respective attacks, be it either Iron Chariot or Lunar Dynamo. We're seeing Lunar Dynamo this time, so we move in to dodge, but we killed the add before it went off. Once one of the adds is dead, all the debuffs go away, and everybody can pile on the remaining add. It should be very close to dead, and once that add is dead, everyone can pile back on Ruby Weapon. The add phase is done, now it's just us against Ruby Weapon. You can see Dalamud falling in the background, and it's getting very close. Ruby Weapon will also cast Negative Aura, which is simply something you have to look away from to not be hit by. If you're looking at it, you'll be confused and take off running in one direction or another, probably into the death plane around the outside of the arena. Though I have, in the past, been rescued by a white mage back towards the center and managed to be confused and not die. Around this time, you'll start getting a countdown timer as to how long you have until Dalamud actually crashes. When it does, this is going to be a massive raid damage. Massive raid damage hit. Meteor Project once again. This is going to be a little bit different than Dalamud falling. Instead, we get Meteor Mine, which means we go back to our locations. I was in the southwest at number 3, so I'm heading to number 3. You'll start seeing very large AoEs appearing on each one of the party members with a number over their heads. The number simply indicates the order that they're going to go off in. This is the same as the order that they appear in. So it's not some new mechanic, just an additional little bit of help. Ruby Weapon will also cast Magitech Meteor, which will summon a large meteor to come crashing down in the center of the arena after a set amount of time. Don't worry about it right this second. So for all the AoEs going off, find the player with number 8. This is the last one to land. Everyone needs to be as far away from the center of the arena as possible, except number 8, which needs to be just on the edge of the boss's hitbox. So you'll notice these AoEs don't hit immediately. Instead, they're proximity AoEs. And once they've all gone off, everyone moves to the center of the arena to help mitigate damage. Don't put that number 8 too close or you'll be taking too much damage from it. Ruby Weapon will then cast Screech. Screech is merely a knockback. So you want to stand near that number 8 meteor so you get knocked back to the other side of it. Alternatively, you can use knockback immunity and just go stand on the other side of it. I don't trust my knockback immunity, so I'll take the Screech. Now that we're hiding behind this meteor, the Magitech meteor should be coming down and crashing in the center of the arena. If you're not hiding behind this meteor, it will kill you. And the second it goes off, get away from the meteor you're hiding behind, because it will explode, and probably won't kill you actually, but it'll hurt. Without much in the way of a break, this is immediately followed by the Mark II Magitech Comet. This is going to summon 2 little arrow markers that move slowly across the arena, and it will move before turning into an actual marker, one on either side of the arena. These can appear on the north, south, west, east. I've seen them appear pretty much anywhere. But one tank needs to stand in one, the other tank needs to stand in the other. Because they're about to catch a comet. This comet will do a surprising amount of damage to the tank, so they'll need to be healed up pretty constantly. Everyone else needs to DPS these comets down to destroy them as quickly as possible. While you're doing this, 2 people will be targeted by a marker over your head. This is going to be a directional AoE coming out from Ruby Weapon across the arena, so just kind of don't point it at anybody. With both comets destroyed, Dalamud is once again nearly falling, so everyone gather around for heals and DPS down Ruby Weapon as best you can. Congratulations, at this point you're past pretty much all of the mechanics. At this point, do as much damage as you possibly can. One more meteor project, which means Dalamud is falling a 3rd time. This fall is your hard enrage. Before that, though, we have Outrage, which is just very high raid damage. Followed by another Outrage for more raid damage. Followed by Meteor Stream, which we've seen plenty before. This will summon 4 of these that target the 4 DPS. And as soon as that goes off, another 4 will appear on the tanks and healers. After this is followed by 1 or 2 more Outrages before Dalamud falls hard enraging, and that is the fight. As long as you take down a Ruby Weapon before then, you get your win. You can go claim your Ruby Weapon and your totem. 10 totems can be exchanged for Ruby Weapon if you're not lucky enough to get it from the chest before then. And that's Ruby Weapon.